Oh, we're live.
All right, we're live. We're live. Welcome, everyone. We are excited to have you today. We're going to discuss things all about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. My name's AJ Christensen. I'm the SIGGRAPH 2019 Posters Chair. And next to me on your screen are Victoria Regge, who is the Virtual, Augmented, and Mixed Reality Chair, and Courtney Starrett, who is the Emerging Technologies Chair. I will let them introduce themselves and tell you about their programs and their roles on the SIGGRAPH 2019 team. Maybe okay. Courtney, you want to go first?
I will, yeah, absolutely. So as AJ just said, I'm Courtney Starrett. I'm this year's Emerging Technologies Chair. This year, my role has involved crafting a vision for the venue and reaching out to encourage researchers and to share their new work, work that's about at midpoint between inception and adoption. I've also had the good fortune to represent SIGGRAPH at the Digital Content Association of Japan's DC Expo in Japan in November. And then I also got to represent SIGGRAPH at Laval Virtual in France this March and participate in their award juries, which was very cool. And although new technologies that have been seen in the Emerging Technologies program this year range from smart textiles to new advancements in golf training systems, we have a number that are VR related. So Victoria.
Thanks, Courtney. So the Virtual, Augmented, and Mixed Reality program for this year, which is all kind of located in the Immersive Pavilion, and which is in the broader part of the Experience Hall. In fact, it's right next to Courtney's Emerging Technology. The vision we've set for this year goes along with the theme of SIGGRAPH, which is Thrive, and showcasing how all different types of realities and immersion are featured. So there's three core areas. We have, coming back from last year, is the very popular arcade section, where everyone can try the latest and greatest games. New for this year, there will be some really great mixed reality pieces. Last year is really all focused on virtual reality games, so we're very excited to have a new space there to showcase how AR and VR and MR are thriving. And then we also have, new for this year, a museum which is going to feature artists who've created work in virtual reality and really showcase the new kind of medium and highlight some of the really great things that everyone's been creating in virtual reality the last few years using different programs like Quill and Tilt Brush and all the great things. And one thing in particular I'm really excited about is, well, just the ability to be able to kind of, it's going to be set up like a museum, but it's all virtual. And so everyone can kind of step inside the different experiences and have a look at them and really see the latest and greatest art that's being created in this space. And then finally, the last area is the Village. And the Village has contributions from all different types of folks. And we've got a few that focus on adaptive technology that I'm really excited about this year, and a few featuring some of the newer headsets that have come out on the market in the last few weeks, in fact. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for everyone to try the new headsets that are coming out.
Neat.
Yeah.
So I'll grab the baton from you then.
Sure.
I mentioned I'm AJ. I'm running the Posters venue this year. Posters is a venue that's intended for people who are kind of in early stages of their research, who may have really interesting work that's not quite ready for some of the other venues. And so we just week ago, plowed through hundreds of submissions and got to kind of the 80 or so that we thought really represented a good diversity and some of the like really cool stuff that people are working on in the computer graphics field. And we're noticing some really interesting emerging trends, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This year, we're also testing out a new sort of portion of the posters program where accepted papers will be able to present their papers as posters in the posters venue so that they'll be able to sort of have discussions about their work and get feedback from other experts in the industry. And then, of course, we're also bringing back the student research competition. So students who submitted posters are eligible to participate in that. And they'll sort of have to do a live jurying during the conference, and then at the end of the conference, there's an SRC final sort of presentation where we get to see the top 3 graduates and the top 3 undergraduates all sort of deliver their research pitch and get ranked and get prizes, and that's a really cool thing. And all of this is going to be happening in the Experience Hall, so make a plan to be there.
That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited. There's some really cool stuff, really. So moving on, today's Facebook Live will discuss all things VR and new technology, from trends we're seeing in the field to projects that you'll see at the conference this summer in Los Angeles. We also want to hear your questions. So as we're talking, please make sure to drop those in the comments below so that we can answer them. Let's get started by discussing the trends in VR and technology that we're seeing out in the wild. Courtney, what is the coolest trend or piece of new tech that you've seen lately?
Well, in my travels this year, both in Europe and Asia, the trends that were kind of popping up in VR that I was noticing were all about improving the experience, from reducing motion sickness and perceived latency to increasing the field of view and degrees of freedom, to providing opportunities to collaborate and interact within virtual spaces. In emerging technologies this year, we have such a range of really cool new technologies that we're going to be showing that are just kind of hot off the presses. And so some of them are kind of small scale examples of what could happen. For example, an optical cloaking display, otherwise known as kind of an invisibility cloak. So it's using technology to kind of make things invisible, which would be very cool. We have a golf training system that's using technology and sonification to help people improve their skills. We have different optics. SIGGRAPH is also, and I'm really excited about this too, showcasing adaptive and assistive technologies, which is really exciting this year. And I've enjoyed learning about how VR can be used for good. Through the SIGGRAPH general submissions this year, I recently learned about a research group in the UK at the University of Manchester doing work on VR to treat phantom limb pain of amputees, which is very cool. And that'll actually be a talk at SIGGRAPH this year. So, AJ, what have you got?
Thanks, Courtney. So yeah, one of the things that I've really noticed coming out of the posters program are tools for artists. There were a lot of sort of interesting experiments with how you can create really interesting imagery in immersive spaces, and there's not like necessarily a heavy reliance on physical realism in the way that there may have been in the past. People are really trying different things to be expressive in the ways that they use that technology, which is really exciting, that it's not just sort of tech demos anymore, but we're actually seeing like real artistic experiences. And the other thing that I've noticed sort of just being in the academic arena and seeing how people are using this in education is that there's a lot of really interesting applications for domain scientists looking at ways to use immersive spaces for data management and for like elementary school education. So it's really making its way into a lot of different fields in places that you would never really expect to find it.
I think that's a really great point, because as the headsets and the software and the technology are maturing, you're seeing it being used beyond the kind of traditional enthusiast market. And one of the calls that we put forward this year for the Immersive Pavilion was to show how the technology is being used beyond art and design, and kind of bridging the groups of folks who are actually using it in practice in their company with the amazing, talented folks who are at SIGGRAPH, with the idea that it will make a lot of connections for people to improve. And as you said, Courtney, you've seen everyone really focus on user experience and comfort and enjoyment, and having the real, having different types of content and exposing that to the SIGGRAPH community, I think is really great. And I'm really excited about, we've got some different pieces that maybe you wouldn't expect to see at SIGGRAPH, but it's really important as this community continues to grow and invest time in this area that we do that. And I have a piece I'm really excited about that's called that's focused on adaptive tech. So Courtney, I know you mentioned that as well, but we have a piece that is focused on a gentleman who suffered from a stroke and is paralyzed, and he uses all kinds of cutting edge technology in order to keep him connected to his family and his friends. And you get to see not only how he has to live now and how he communicates with his robots, but because you're immersed in that experience, you really get a sense for what it must be like, and how kind of we can use these technologies to communicate and help people. And that's the thing I'm most excited about, or one of the things I'm most excited about.
Cool.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about that too.
The thing that I love about why we're all working together is because AJ, the posters, in my mind, someday mature into like really crazy emerging technologies in Courtney's area. And then eventually, once they kind of graduate into like polished experiences and pieces, then they're kind of part of the Immersive Pavilion. And in particular, we've all been working really closely to kind of make sure that all the attendees of SIGGRAPH this year kind of see that goal and see how we're structuring it to kind of have this great like feedback loop where you can see everything from, okay, this is a conceptual academic idea that we know is going to work, and then building the prototypes and things that they're going to see in the e-tech area. It's really going to be great. And I think the momentum for AR and VR, and now everyone's using the term spatial computing. So I'm on board with the spatial computing idea, or as a concept. And I just think it's going to be really a great thing for the whole conference.
Yeah, and you guys can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of get the impression that we're starting to finally arrive at this place where people have been excited about VR and AR and MR and spatial computing for long enough that they've had the opportunity to kind of create these polished products. So we're filling up that pipeline from investigation to production experiences.
Absolutely.
I agree. So Victoria, can you tell us a little bit more about anything that we're going to see in the augmented and mixed reality arenas in your program?
Sure. So last year we only had a few pieces of augmented reality. And part of that was because we didn't have there was only kind of one headset on the market. But I'm really, really pleased to share that there will be both Magic Leap and HoloLens experiences for everyone to try. And I know the teams are kind of working really hard to showcase things that maybe haven't been seen before. So I can't get into too many details because some things are still in the works. But we're really excited to be able to showcase more augmented reality this year at the conference. So you're going to be able to try every type of headset and see experiences on all headsets this year. And as you guys probably all know, there have been some new headsets that have been recently been announced and launched, and those will be there too. And one really amazing piece that's going to be part of the museum is an artist is recreating the Sistine Chapel, and we're going to be able to experience the Sistine Chapel in virtual reality. So I think that one's going to be really, really special. And a few years ago, the same artist did an experience, I think it was 2 years ago, that was a little bit different. And he's been able to kind of build on top of that and create something really spectacular. In fact, I believe he was just in Italy doing some final research, and so he can polish that piece. So that's going to be incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wow. That's so exciting.
That is exciting. One thing that I am excited about in the Emerging Technologies venue this year is the Center for Human-Centered Interaction for Coexistence and the Korea Institute for Science and Technology are presenting a novel immersive mixed reality system that uses a video see-through head mount display and a 3D LiDAR scan. By scanning the room, it allows the VR user to interact with both virtual and physical objects. And I'm super excited to try that one.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting kind of true mixed reality.
Yeah, so the example that they show is that they've scanned the room and there's a chair in the space and they're able to kind of shoot balls and they land in the chair, and then you can interact and so people can move objects around and the virtual balls kind of bounce off the physical objects in the room that you're actually seeing. Wow. It's a really crazy setup and I'm quite excited to try that one.
That sounds fantastic.
Definitely going to go there.
One of the updates from last year, something we showcased last year was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Wolves in the Walls series, but last year we showcased Chapter 1, and this year we're really excited that they're bringing back the team is coming back to present Chapter 2, so it'll be a really nice follow-on and something that's new. And then in terms of games in immersive technology, there's some really fun kind of. There's one called Beachbody Bros, one called T-Rex Skeleton Crew, another called Pixel Ripped, and I think a lot of those are going to be really fun. We're also going to have the old school arcade games like we did last year, and have an area where people can sign up and check those out and also hang out. We're also working on another project where fingers crossed are coming through that when folks are waiting in line, they'll be able to see, they'll be able to hopefully do an AR experience. And our team is working really hard to make sure that we can get as many attendees to see as many different experiences and installations as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved the VR theater last year, or the VR venues last year.
Yeah,
VR theater is actually a different
actually
venue.
a really good point. So I think is completely worth highlighting. But in addition to, and as part of the Immersive Pavilion, we have the VR theater and the VR Theater Kiosks. And my colleague Max Plank is the chair for that program. But I know that team is putting together some really amazing storytelling content, and the theater will be bigger, and some really neat items that'll be kind of in the kiosk areas. So that's absolutely something to check out as well.
And so just because I just confused everyone, just to clarify, the Immersive Pavilion contains which experiences?
Sure. So the Immersive Pavilion contains the museum, where we're going to be able to see Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, and the arcade, where people are going to be able to do both AR and VR experiences. The village, which is all the contributors who are building content that's kind of being used across companies, and different examples of how the technology is being implemented and used. And the VR theater is also part of the Immersive Pavilion. So it's one great area. And all of the Immersive Pavilion is located in the Experience Hall next to your program. So it's all going to be in one space. And because we're back in Los Angeles, we get to all be together. Last year in Vancouver, it was in a separate area. And so I'm really excited that we're all back together again.
Awesome. Yeah. It'll be easier to get from place to place now.
Yes.
Okay. So AJ, do you have any specific program highlights from posters that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So some of the really, well, so first of all, I did want to point out that fully like 1/3 of the submissions we got to posters had some VR component to them. Awesome. So it's huge. Like it's a huge area of interest for active research. And that's not even including the augmented and mixed reality keywords as well. I just did a quick search for virtual reality and like many submissions just using those terms. Some of the more sort of standout trends that I noticed were a lot of uses of VR, AR, and MR for scientific visualization and data display. There were some interesting examples of doing like augmented 3D printed data that had projection on the 3D prints that was like registering in real time. Also like custom tabletop displays, a lot of sort of projection mapping type stuff, some mobile technologies. So there's definitely some interest in using these technologies for scientific research. And then another area that really stood out to me was using immersive technologies to enhance artistic experiences. So there's a poster that creates a virtual reality orchestra with spatialized sound. And then there's an augmented reality experience that has a way to experience an opera. And also someone is working on an experiment with sort of this cultural touchstone of Chinese glove puppetry that's being driven through like actual hand performance, but's been being translated into a virtual reality experience. So this is kind of just hammering home this idea that there are people from so many different fields that are interested in this technology, for all the way from the very technological all the way to the most artistic.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So, Courtney, do you want to talk maybe a little bit about what highlights you've got in emerging tech? I know you already mentioned a couple things, but
yeah, no, I have more. There's so much more. Yeah, well, two of the pieces that I'm really excited to bring to SIGGRAPH are the ones that were selected as the award winners at the two partner conferences that we have. And so the DC Expo, which is the Digital Content Association of Japan's expo that they have every year, has a lot of student research and immersive research that's similar to what we do in emerging technologies. And so I got to go over there and try everything out and pick a piece that would come back and display at SIGGRAPH this year. And so that one's called Effective HMD. So it's a head mount display of facial expression recognition technology in the head mount display using built-in optical sensors. And so you can kind of transmit your facial expressions right into an avatar, which is pretty cool. And then Telesight, which is the piece that was at Laval that'll be traveling to SIGGRAPH this year, is really kind of looking at ways to, or exploring ways to interact as a bystander with somebody who's currently in VR. So using a robotic avatar, somebody can kind of cover the eyes or put on sunglasses or kind of have like an interactive experience with someone who's in virtual reality. And so there's this kind of interplay and exchange there, which is really cool. And I think that like it kind of really talks about what emerging technologies is. It's like, so that's cool. That's one application for it. But then thinking about all the potential future applications of all of this stuff that you'll see in emerging technologies is the most exciting part to see where it'll go from here. I have more, but if anybody else wants to jump in on that, I could keep going. I won't.
So I was going to say, I just discovered I wasn't even reading from the notes that I wanted to share. There's actually, I wanted to kind of talk about trends, which I just addressed, but actually there are a few individual posters that I wanted to pull out as well. Listening to you talk about emerging tech reminded me that, I didn't talk about all the different hardware interfaces that are going to show up. There are people working on a Rubik's Cube as a input device, a robotic tail as a thing that can be worn and that can kind of augment the way that you move through the physical world.
Just as a heads up, that'll actually be in eTech to be tried on. So
no way.
You can try on the tail. I was going to mention that one later, but yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really cool. There's another poster about compositing using light fields. So this is like creating all these cool abilities to do this post-processing that you would normally have to do in camera or at least in three-dimensional software. So they're doing compositing. The light fields allow you to do camera stabilization, removal of foreground elements, a lot of different types of depth compositing trickery. So that looks really cool. And then also, again, going back to this adaptive technology focus that the conference has this year, we've got people bringing in a sort of a fingertip microscope so you can kind of touch something that you want to see up close. There's another one where someone's presenting scented printer ink. So you can, sort of print out a picture and smell it. And also, I'm even wondering if we maybe have some more overlap, Courtney.
We do.
Because there was another really interesting poster about using virtual reality in stroke recovery, helping stroke victims sort of regain control of their limbs. That
sounds like, yeah, maybe even overlapping with what's happening in the Immersive Pavilion. But the Magnifinger, which is where you can kind of magnify perception by fingertip probe microscope, is that the one you're talking about? That'll actually be in emerging technologies as well. So it sounds like you'll be able to read more about things in posters in some of the cases and see it in person, which is really exciting over in the emerging technologies venue.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm already running out of time on my schedule.
I know, there's going to be so much. It's always the problem with SIGGRAPH. It's too much good stuff. Maybe not a problem, right?
Yeah, good problem to have. Good problem to have.
It is. What are we supposed to do next?
So do we want to, maybe, Victoria, do you want to sort of address where you see VR being applied in the future, whether you expect anything to sort of surprise us? You want to make any predictions?
Sure. We can come back next year and see if they're true. And then maybe 5 years from now. I think there's definitely a resurgence of energy and excitement around the space. One of the trends we're already starting to see, but I think will be more widely adopted, is figuring out how to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help create the experiences and to use the experiences. I think we're going to see, now that we've got a really, really great untethered headset that's out, it's really going to be able to change kind of the scope of what folks can do. And the AR headsets that are on the market are also going to change the way that a lot of people work, I think. And the fact that you can, for example, if you're working on a manufacturing line and looking at something really maybe tricky or difficult, and you, in the former way, you would is maybe like if you were, say, under a car, like working on something. I guess my dad drives drag race cars, so a lot of my analogies around cars and building them. But instead of going to look at a manual, getting out from under the car, under the hood of the car, looking at a manual, figuring out, oh, this is kind of what I need to change or do. You can imagine folks, and I know folks are already doing this, wearing AR headsets so that they can just pull up the manual and go through it as they're still under there. And if you just think about all the interesting ways that can be applied, I think the future is endless. And in particular, I'm really excited, AJ, about you mentioned some of your posters and things are focused on art. And I really, truly think that being able to capture or share an experience, particularly of places that you may never be able to go to in your life, or have a view of places you wouldn't normally see, is going to be really important. And I know there are a lot of really great nonprofits that are working with LiDAR data and photogrammetry and capturing like UNESCO World Heritage sites, and also using not only to capture so that students and adults and people who just want to learn about these places can see them, but actually there's a nonprofit I've been working with who's doing that and looking at how can we collaborate in real time if we have an artist in one city in the world, and we have the architects in another city in the world, and just have a virtual team and have all the experts in one place, and use VR to be able to do that, to restore a site that may be damaged by conflict or by a natural disaster or something like that. And so I really think it's going to be able to help us connect more to our communities. And I'm really excited to see the predictions. Do either of you have any predictions or thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that going off of what you said exactly is, I'm super excited to see how people will collaborate and interact and see things in the future. And I love watching, like as AJ mentioned before, watching that progression and of the work as it moves through the life cycle of SIGGRAPH, kind of being, as just an idea to a kind of tested prototype to a finished product, and then perhaps it's commercial, and we could find it over in the exhibit at SIGGRAPH. That's always really exciting. Like, I mean, I just think about how SIGGRAPH is the history and kind of the future at the same time. Like last year, one of my favorite experiences at SIGGRAPH was going to see Ivan Sutherland's VR at 50 to hear about the very first VR headset. And, just knowing that all of this is happening in the same place, and just kind of the record of it, and kind of the being part of something that's emerging, but also kind of, right, there's this great record of it, is pretty exciting. So I'm excited to see where these things go, and having this personal connection with and this kind of kind of fostering these projects as they come through emerging technologies is makes me feel really connected to it. And so I'll feel great pride as I see these things kind of go out into the world and be able to connect back to where they started and see them. It's been fun because I've seen some of the same researchers throughout this year presenting both in Japan and France, and then now, they get to come to LA, and it's really exciting to see as their work is evolving, and just in a few months, their projects get more and more polished. So I'm excited to see just how that continues.
That's a really great point. I think one of the great things is that the industry is moving so quickly, but everyone's sharing. We're still at the stage where everyone's sharing kind of the key learnings. And I hope that continues. And I hope that SIGGRAPH is always able to kind of foster that community and that development among everyone, to kind of lift the technology. And I mean, last year it was really special. All of the pioneers being in one room and being able to hear from them. And I think I'm sure that a lot of our contributors to all of our programs this year are going to be those folks someday too. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was gonna sort of just go off of what Victoria was saying about these sort of historical sites. One of my hopes for VR, and one of the things that I see happening is people really having meaningful experiences, not not necessarily limiting the technology to thinking of it as a movie or video game platform, which isn't to say that that's not also a lot of fun. But there's so much potential here, and one of the things that we've seen is the potential to create these digital cultural heritage projects, this sort of digital preservation of lost monuments and things that might be buried, or things that have been taken out of context. One of the major issues that you hear a lot about when you talk to experts in the museum industry is like, people don't appreciate a pottery bowl when they see it in a glass display case. But with VR, we can take these artifacts that we've dug out of the ground and put them back into the context from which they were originally intended. And more even than that, I'm really excited to see the way that we're using immersive technology as an educational tool. There's evidence that when people sort of have these informal educational experiences where they get to interact and look around and hold things, especially in like mixed reality experiences, it prepares them better for like formal learning environments like classrooms. So if we can get kids into these environments, they can start playing with the actual science and show up in a teacher's classroom on day one, like ready to learn and ready to absorb material in a way that has been really difficult to achieve without this technology. So this is like an area that I'm particularly excited about.
Absolutely.
Do you guys want to share any more about experiences, or should we look at questions?
We can take it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have a note here that we maybe wanted to, do we want to take questions or talk about kind of this tech on SIGGRAPH thing? Totally up to you guys.
I might have my talking about anything there, I guess.
Okay, either my connection cut out or yours did.
Oh, maybe it's mine. I don't know. Do you like? So I kind of ran with that and kind of talked about technology's impact on SIGGRAPH in my predictions of the future. But if you guys want to add on to any of that, I kind of jumped ahead a little, I guess.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, Victoria, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think I've been seeing lots of the comments and appreciate everyone's kind of support. And I think we could probably answer some questions.
Yeah, okay, great. So let's make sure that we know how to do this. Are you guys seeing the questions?
I am. Oh.
There we go.
Oh, any VR workshops planned in the future? I personally don't have any.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering if this is like a question about SIGGRAPH venues, or if this is just a question about you know, VR events worldwide.
Oh, do we have any? Ooh, that would be a course question, right? Do we have any courses, VR courses at SIGGRAPH? Michael Reed's on here. I wonder if
Yeah, maybe we should do a little research on that and come back.
Yeah, we'll have to get back to that one.
So there's a course on August 1st on Capture for VR, from VR photography to VR video. That looks really interesting. And there's also, I think, some work on that's more on the production animation side and interactivity, but perception of virtual characters. That looks really interesting as well. And I think those are the two that I can see that are focused, potentially focused on VR.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in real-time rendering too, which is sort of adjacent.
And I see Mickey's mentioning the idea to try to have a specialized conference dedicated to VR in the coming years.
Ooh.
Which sounds really exciting. There is also, Jay mentioned he's really interested to see 360 camera outputs to 3D models and encouraging the technology to go faster. I guess I'm able to see kind of all the comments. I know, and then we have this one here that folks feel sick when they're experiencing VR. I think actually, Courtney, you addressed that a little bit earlier when you mentioned your travels, but that was kind of really early on in the broadcast. But you mentioned your travels and the different pieces of technology that are being worked on to kind of address that.
I did get to experience something at another conference. I was at Laval Virtual, and I got to try a system that was an add-on to a regular head mount display. And I'm blanking on the name of the company, but they won an award at Laval, and it was very cool. So they put you on, I get motion sick, they put you on a roller coaster ride in VR, and and there's something that kind of keeps you grounded. So I was able to ride that ride for a couple minutes without feeling sick. So I think that there are much improved. Was I cutting out?
Yeah, I was going to say I got a little. The last half a sentence.
My screen is freezing, and so it must be me and my connection here. But I do think that it's something people are working on. I know it is, and it'll be much improved in the future.
Great. And then we also had some comments from June Kim, and who mentioned that it sounds really exciting to be able to experience more robots in eTech this year. And one question that she had is that many researchers have been working on VR plus AI together. And do we have any featured works in this area of research?
In the emerging technologies venue, there wasn't a lot of submissions in the AI this year, combining those. I know that that's happening as well, but we've got some other stuff. We had some optics come through, and then a lot of the haptics, and so you'll see a lot of that. And we had some augmented reality, different devices that will come through. So different ways to kind of view augmented reality screens and things like that, but not as much in that combination.
I think that's an area that folks are like looking at research and conceptually trying to figure out how to best make use of it, because all the companies have a lot of data and a lot of assets. And I think the implementation piece is what's going to be interesting. And we're probably a little bit away from seeing that throughout the conference, but certainly I know there's talks on artificial intelligence and on virtual reality, so that I think we'll see more and more of that in years to come. And hopefully, even maybe at the end of the year in SIGGRAPH Asia.
Yeah, and just doing a quick, I'm looking at the interface and doing a quick keyword search, and there are actually several posters that have both the keywords deep learning and either AR or VR. So people are starting to investigate this, absolutely. So thanks for the question, June.
Yeah. We also got a few questions that have some feedback from different presenters around how are we going to allow more people to experience the
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having some problems too. I don't know if it's maybe it's the weather.
And so I just wanted
to so do we have any changes to this year's VR theater? Would love to get tickets. That would be a Victoria question, or a Max question, actually.
Yes. Changes. So I know there's some updates, and I know that team.
I can answer another question. All of the emerging technologies content is up on the website, but the VR theater is still to come. So that was one of the questions. Answered. Let's see. I feel like we're having.
Yeah, so I think we're having some synchronization issues here.
All right, maybe I'll stop talking.
So do we have a question to answer now?
I think we've almost gone through all of them as far as I can see. We answered, Jenny had a question around whether people will be able to try demonstrations as part of the posters program that I think was addressed when you guys shared the posters and the experiences that will be in eTech. We had a couple questions about lines and ability to experience things. Definitely for VR theater, it will be ticketed and time slot, and as that you would go through kind of registration. So make sure you get a time and date for that. And we are really working and looking at all the solutions as a whole for the industry at conferences and trade shows. It's just hard to get throughput and let everyone experience the technology. But our teams have been going around and coming back with ideas of how other conferences are managing the queue lines and also providing some guidance to contributors there. So we're definitely improving best practices, and we appreciate your patience because we know sometimes the lines are long, but we're working to reduce that as much as possible so that you guys can experience everything. And there was a really good idea about Oculus Quest from Steve. And I will definitely take that feedback back to the team.
Cool.
And good recommendations for future workshops using on Unity and Unreal for Quest. So thank you so much, everyone, for all of your input, all of your questions. I haven't really seen any new ones come through, so we're gonna wrap this up. We really hope you're as excited as we are for SIGGRAPH 2019. As a reminder, the early registration deadline is June 7th. So you've got a few more days to get your discounted rate, and you can always learn about the latest and greatest and look out for updates on our website, which is www.s2019.sigraph.org. And we really hope we'll see you in Los Angeles July 28th through August 1st.
And I'm going to make a really quick plug too. There's a new schedule builder feature on the website. So if you like me have trouble fitting everything in, go check it out under the attendee menu and go to Build My Schedule, and you can try that new feature out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you all very soon.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.